Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Lola Medicine Keeper is an alchemistic shaman, a healer of soul loss, a ceremonialist, a pattern tracker, a soul whisperer to the wild animal within. She walks with those on the path to awakening. Her work is designed to help you remember that you are powerful, imbued with magic, and designed for ecstasy. You are all things sacred and a house for the holy. Your world is meant to be a playground for all beings, including you. Now let's welcome Lola to the show. Welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show, where we co-create powerful conscious conversations on the leading edge. Today I have Lola joining us, and we are going to be talking about some really awesome stuff. We're going to be talking about unleashing the fire within, embracing fear, and how to embody ecstasy. So welcome, Lola.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be good.
It is. Oh my gosh. You know, this is something that I think is up for a lot of people right now, really stepping in to what they're being called into and having fear come up and holding them back. So I love that we're going to be talking about this and diving deep. When I came across, honestly, I don't even remember how I came across your information, but when I did, I saw a video where you were speaking right into the camera and you were just like owning your fierceness. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be having a conversation on the show.
Awesome.
So, yeah, so just so people get a little better understanding of you and your journey, let's talk about how you actually haven't always been in the shamanic world, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you were in website design and you were doing all this heady stuff, and then you made this leap. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I started out, as many people do, doing what I'm good at, and that's not necessarily what we're meant to do. You know, just because we're good at something doesn't mean it's ours. And yet we're often financially rewarded for those really practical skills, you know, graphic design, web design. It's hard to not find somebody who needs that. You know, always there's somebody somewhere with a project. And so my business started out really successful when I left the corporate world. And I had no problem, you know, getting clients and doing websites. And the issue with it for me was that I was unhappy, and I didn't understand why, because I had finances lined up. I was physically fit. I was married to my college boyfriend. I lived in a house by the beach in San Diego. I had the golden retriever I'd always dreamed of. Like, everything in my life lined up in all the little perfect checked boxes according to what our society says, like, this means you've made it.
Right.
And I had this deep feeling of discontent, and I did not know why. And so I spent a few years really taking a very hard look at every aspect of my life and saying what belongs and what doesn't belong. And I, in that process, quit my job. I went out on my own as an entrepreneur. I had a baby. I tried moving. I did everything that I could, up to and including leaving my husband, to try and figure out what it was. And ultimately what I discovered was that I had been living this life that was the recipe for somebody else. It wasn't for me. And so I started to ask even harder questions and go further afield and also deeper within to try and figure out who am I really? Like, am I even this person?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is why I'm not so happy. And it was in this process of deeper and deeper inquiry that led me to shamanic work. And as I explored those realms, I went to Peru. I ended up meeting my now like twin flame amazing husband. And these shamanic doors opened myself to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized this is who I am. This is the little who would sit under pine trees in my backyard, grind acorns, and who could talk to animals and see animals and people, and always wanted a tribal name. And like, this is who I have always been, and probably for lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I knew that, and once anyone really knows something, you can't unknow. It's never taken from you. And you have to, I feel like, do something with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to figure out, well, what is it that I can offer in this realm so that I can continue this work, so I can be more authentic to myself and stop doing the things that, even though I'm good at, cause me suffering.
Yeah.
And so I came up with some ideas and I started just saying, hey, I can find your spirit animal. Like, this is a big leap. Yesterday I was talking about websites. Today I'm talking about spirit animals. Trust me, though, it's going to be fine. Um, and because my audience always had been with me, mostly because I'm a truth teller. So no matter what I was doing, I always spoke to my experience was in an authentic way. And so they were like, well, this is new. This is interesting. Sure. Because everybody wants to know a little bit more about themselves, right? So this really quickly took off. And it very almost immediately became apparent that I didn't have to do websites, that I actually could do the things that I'm great at, not just stick to what I'm good at, and in the process grow myself and grow my business and continue to be more and more me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that becomes a story, right? Because
Yeah.
people are like, how do you do that? How do you be yourself and get paid for that? And how do you be a full-time healer and you're not broke? And, like, how does this work?
Yeah.
So I ended up creating a very compelling story that's true because I'm living it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how and why, that's how and why I left. And I still do my own website design because I got the skills, right? That's cool to do those things for other people unless I choose to.
Yeah. Well, and I love that story because I believe that's what the journey we all need to go through, really. It's that
Yeah.
letting go of anything that is not really in alignment with our soul's calling and give ourselves permission to follow that guidance that we have within, that passion, and yeah, let go of everything else and then take that leap of faith that you can do that. And I
Yeah.
love how you talked about, I think there's a lot of people out there that are thinking that if they lose weight, if they find the right person, if they make the money, that then everything's going to be perfect and fixed. But yeah, obviously not. It doesn't matter
No,
if you all of a sudden have more money. All of those things just amplify what's already going on. And everything is
that's
really
right.
a reflection of you inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting. I'm actually going through this same experience you just talked about with my show. So the
Mm.
show itself has not been producing an income. But the other day, I was having this realization that my passion is really helping metaphysical experts and spiritual leaders and new thought leaders to really express themselves and express that passion inside. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
so many people have trouble communicating that and they're hiding in a sense that I can offer visibility videos where I'm interviewing them and helping them share that. And I was like, I put it out there and people are flocking to it. I was like,
Mm.
wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. So, yeah, if you're watching this and you're listening to our stories, you have this insight as well. You can do it and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have an inner nature that deserves to be out, you
Yeah.
know? and that wants to be out, and that if we leave her, it, him, they caged, it ends up going sideways generally. So the better and more effective we are at expressing truth and being in our power and being brave and walking away from the things that don't serve and walking toward what does, everything in our life changes. It's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
it's possible for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So people, I hear them saying, well, how do I know? How do I know what
Mhm.
that is? Or how do I know what those right steps are? So can you speak to that?
Yeah. What I always say is that the path to no regret is following the intuitive yes. And usually the intuitive yes is not a shout or a scream. Sometimes it is. And usually it makes no sense.
Yeah.
So when I have gone back at the path that I've gone down and all the places where it took a significant turn toward my truth, it's because of those little hits that I got, like the little gut feeling of like, you should take that class, or you should go to this event, or you should have this conversation with your husband, or you should read this book. Usually it's not a big thing. The intuitive hit is not like leave your marriage right away, usually, right? Like
Right.
it starts smaller. And as you follow those little tiny hits, even down to like, what do I want for lunch?
Yeah.
The more that you listen to those little gut feelings and follow them, the stronger your relationship goes with your intuition. It's like a friendship. Your intuition's like, she's listening. Yeah, I'm going to start talking up and I'm going
Yeah.
to start, getting excited. And oh my gosh, there's so much I'd love to tell her. And then you have this beautiful relationship and you start getting those insights and they become a little clearer maybe than just like a fluttering in your tummy. Maybe they feel like chills down your spine, or you just like are seeing signs everywhere. And you start to really tap into the energy of synchronicity and flow. And then like I'm on the path now to like no regret, like not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily failure free, but no regret.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like those little breadcrumbs. It's
Exactly.
like source or universe or whatever, however you refer to the cosmos. It's like, yeah, we're only going to get that next step, and we're not going to
Yeah.
get that whole path laid out for us. I mean,
No.
it was like a couple years ago when during a meditation, out of like nowhere, I got that I was supposed to move to the East Coast, and I got a date, and it was like a month, and I was like, what the hell? So exactly, it's like
Yep.
a lot of times these things don't make sense, but the more that
Mm-mm.
you listen and willing to step in, they just, like you say, get louder, and you get the more frequent, and then it's
Yeah.
like this fun relationship that you can play with.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it's beautiful and it applies to every area of your life. And that's why there's no like wrong place to start. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
use lunch as an example because people are like, well, how do I listen to my intuition? And I'm like, well, ask yourself, do I want a sandwich or do I want a salad? Like
Yeah.
let's make this super accessible.
Yeah.
And you'll know like which one sounds better, which one feels better, which one's making your mouth water. That's your intuition.
Mm-hmm. I think we overcomplicate this stuff.
Mostly everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about this animal that we all have inside. So let's talk about this because you definitely have this primal fierceness about you. When I saw you in that video, I felt it was like that goddess Kali energy. So let's talk
Mhm.
about this animal that we have inside that we need to let out.
Yeah, well, we all have, I think, many animals inside of us. It's pretty hard to pin everyone into like one little box, and we don't like to be pinned down anyway. But nevertheless, there are these archetypal forces that take the shape of, I believe, animals, at least at one level. And as we're exploring ourselves, these animal archetypes can really help us understand who we currently are and how we can navigate life a little bit better.
Hmm.
So, in many indigenous cultures, they were called animal totems, power animals, spirit animals. There's lots of different kind of mythology around what they mean, and there's all different pathways of exploration you can go down with that. But ultimately, what it comes down to is if there is an animal that you can find that resonates with your soul, you might yourself constantly pinning pictures of foxes on Pinterest, or like very attracted to certain animal prints, or oh my gosh, I love owls, or an animal that you've been long fascinated with since childhood, or even an animal that you're terrified of. Sometimes these are our strongest allies. You know,
Mm-hmm.
spider is a good one for me, and snake, where it's like, ooh, you have nightmares about them, or you really are deeply afraid of them in real life. Bees sometimes way for people. These are
Yes.
aspects of ourselves that we are resistant to and that hold an immense amount of power and information for us. So if you were to look at like an animal that you're deeply afraid of, because I think we can all pretty much immediately come up with one of those, um, ask yourself, what is this animal trying to show me? What is it about them that I'm afraid of? Am I afraid of getting bitten or stung? Maybe my words need to be more conscious. Maybe
Mm.
I need to be more powerful with my words. Maybe I'm afraid of hurting someone's feelings, and so I repress my truth. There's a number of different ways that the medicine can take, right? So
Right.
sometimes the medicine is blunt yourself a bit, like do not be so sharp. And then sometimes the medicine is be more blunt, like be willing to be sharp so that you're heard and so that you speak your truth so that you're not being a people pleaser.
Okay,
Um,
so let me interrupt you just for a second here
mhm,
because I
mhm.
have a perfect example that I would
Great.
love to play with here.
Excellent.
So, last week I was at the coast and my mom and I and my dog, we saw this little tiny trail that went down to the water's edge. And so we decided we were going to walk down there, and it was really pretty. And we hung out for a minute or two. My mom starts walking back up this little hill with my dog, and she goes, "Ooh, something just got me." And I was like, I looked at her and saw that there was a branch. And I was like, oh, she's just kind of making something up. Then I start up the hill. Next thing I know, I have this excruciating pain on my leg. And I was, what's going on? I was getting stung by a bee. Not only
Mm.
that, but I ran up the hill and on the backs of my pants of my legs were covered with all these bees or little, I don't know if they were yellow jackets or what, but they were felt very mean
Wow.
to me. And so I was like swatting them off of me.
Yeah.
Just, I about ripped my clothes off and ran down the street. But then, not only that, but then the next day, so I ended up getting stung twice. She got stung once. The next day, we were out getting wood, and we moved a bag around, and there was another bee's nest, and
Hmm.
so they started. So what's the thing about bees?
Okay, well, it depends, right? It depends on what is happening in your life and what the circumstances are around an encounter like this. But because it's like not just a bee or a yellow jacket, it's like groups of bees or yellow
Mm-hmm.
jackets, I would say that there's some medicine in group dynamics.
Mm.
Maybe there's been incidences in the past where you haven't been fully welcomed in a group, or where you've had a hard time feeling like you fit in, or where even you've gotten hurt by being in a
Mm.
group. And
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true or not, but what the medicine would be then is to trust that you are safe in groups,
Mm.
that the pain is temporary, and that it is only in connection and in working together that we can really thrive. Bees are not solo animals, neither are humans. We need our communities in order to thrive, and we have to be willing to get stung or to sting, or to be in our power, or to be misinterpreted, or to be feared, and still can thrive in a group.
Mm.
So you need a
Interesting.
group of equally powerful people who are not going to feel threatened by your presence, by your energy, by your focus, by your business. You need people of equals,
Mm-hmm.
basically, who are all kind of operating at that level. And then there's much less risk of getting stung.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I've noticed that with I'm part of like a mastermind right now, and there is definitely a vulnerability piece. Um, and that was actually something I really wanted to talk about was the vulnerability around sharing your successes and stepping into your power. And and
Yes.
owning that and not being afraid of hurting other people's feelings or being like too much or something.
Oh, yeah. That's a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah.
Literally a big one. I have had a lot of incidences in my life where it has seemed at the outset to cost me to be in my power, whether it's a friendship or whether it's a mentorship with somebody who I was looking to learn from and then sensed that I was, powerful or whatever. And, I get stung
Hmm.
and the friendship ends or something happens. And so it's taken me a long time to trust that it doesn't do me any good to diminish any part of myself in order to be copacetic or to have a friendship or to make a connection, that those connections are false anyway,
Right.
because I'm not being my true self. When you don't stand up in your full light, whether it's in a relationship or a group, you're essentially hurting yourself.
Hmm.
You're preventing a pain coming at you from someone else, but it's hurting you even more deeply. This is much more traumatizing than anything that we can experience from the outside.
It
You know, we
is. It
we
is.
break our own hearts in fear of having our hearts broken. And this creates walls and it creates hardness and it creates an inability to truly connect, which costs us so much in the long run.
Hmm.
So I have discovered the hard way and the painful way, the way of getting stung, um, that it's still worth it to stand up and shine, and that my people will find me then, and that my shining gives them permission to shine too.
Yeah.
And, it is, I think, misunderstood how difficult it is to be great and be beautiful. People look at beautiful women and they're like, oh, they have everything going for them. They don't ever have any problems,
Yeah.
Or there's just lots of assumptions made all around about all people. But it's not understood that there's a burden to being powerful and beautiful. And that is that sometimes you are very lonely.
Hmm.
Um, and so what we need is tribes of powerful, beautiful in all ways people to stand up and say, hey, you, I see you. I want you to stand out more. I want you to be more yourself. I want to hear more of your stories. I want to hear more of your successes. It doesn't scare me. It gives me proof that this works.
Oh my God. That's so powerful. And this is really vulnerable for me to share, but I'm going to share it anyway because I think that there are people that need to hear it. Something that what you just said about being seen. This group that I had just mentioned earlier, that
Mm-hmm.
there was an exercise we did, and all they did, one by one, was say to me, looking me in the eye, like something to the effect of, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it just made me break down into tears because it was really uncomfortable. Because apparently that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the show is to, there's a part of me that's really has this desire to be seen. And
Yes.
then to really be seen on an intimate level like that was like, wow, it was so powerful.
It's extremely powerful. I mean, ultimately, what every single person wants anywhere in the world, any life circumstance, is real connection. And so we go and we search for it in all these different ways that only scratch the surface of what we're really looking for. And that's why, to me, the line of work that I do and the shamanic path is so affirming because it provides this very, very deep connection, not only to yourself, to your own soul, to your spirits, but to the spirit and the sacred in all things.
Mm-hmm.
So that no matter what is happening in your life, whether you're rich or poor or beautiful or alternatively attractive, all of that stuff, you can find home and that you can get a sense of belonging and kinship with wherever you are,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in a skyscraper filled city or out in the forest. And I think that that's our challenge now because we really like idealize and say like, I'm going to connect with nature, then I need to be away from humans, right? Like I need to be away from humans. I need to be out of the city. I can't have to drive there. We put all these conditions around nature without seeing that at a deeper level, like this is nature, my compact is nature, my telephone is nature. All of this came from the earth. And
Mm-hmm.
it means if we can find that again and take off our conditions for what is nature, then we take off our conditions for connection. And we really start to embody what it means to be divine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy and simple. Well, maybe not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah, right. Isn't that the whole thing about spirituality? It is simple yet not always easy.
Yeah.
Well, and the point you make about really showing up and owning that power, and you know, really gives you the opportunity to see who you have authentic relationships with. Because if they are not really truly aligned with you fully embodying your power, then they're not really the people that you need to be surrounding yourself with. And
No.
and that is often really difficult because as we grow and we're on our path, our spiritual path, and we're expanding and becoming more of who we truly are, and we still have these old relationships, maybe friendships
Yeah.
long term or a marriage or whatever, it's hard or can be difficult to let those go when it's time.
Yeah.
So, what's been your experience as you've really stepped into your power? What has happened
Mhm.
in your relationships?
Yeah, so I have walked away from a marriage, and it wasn't just like a fly-by-night relationship. It was over a decade long, and I had a
Mm.
child with him. And so I tried very creative ways to like save the relationship or make it open so that I could have what I felt like I needed, and it just wasn't right. And so eventually, I decided to tell the truth and say, hey, this isn't right, and I also believe that we can create a different relationship that works for our son and that better for us. And out of that process, I actually learned a lot about telling the truth, being heard, and achieving results in conversation that you need to achieve in your life. So that's part of my little gift to everybody who's listening, is that guide to telling the truth that came out of my divorce, which was extremely amicable.
Mm.
And it really is proof positive that that type of communication works. So that relationship ended. I found a new relationship that is just incredible. We've now been together for 5 years and have a child together. And, it was only in leaving what was okay. I didn't have a bad marriage. My first marriage just wasn't correct for me. And by leaving that behind and not justifying any longer, but he's nice, he's funny. Like, I'm an asshole if I leave.
Right.
Um, like, okay, maybe. And you still need to say you're worth the great, that this isn't enough for you. And that's okay. It doesn't make you entitled or a jerk. It just means you have an opportunity to make a different choice. Are you willing? And I think that that's spirit in a nutshell. You have an opportunity to make a different choice. Are you willing? This comes up over and over and over again. And I said yes. And I continue to say yes over and over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
which has meant that friendships will come and they will be fiery and awesome and really powerful. And then we will likely separate because we are usually very powerful women and on our paths and need to go into our own power and make sure we're not like crossing each other, like giving away ours to the other person when they're down or having them feel like you're trying to receive theirs. It can get a little bit messy. So,
Mm-hmm.
are you willing to be clean with your power and say, this integrity with myself is more important than trying to maintain a connection with someone? I love you. We must say goodbye. Like, it doesn't have to be ugly. It
Mm-hmm.
can just be like, this isn't right anymore. And I wish you all the best for your path.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the flavor of some of the friendships that have transitioned into like acquaintanceships or just kind of like not really being in contact anymore. That's happened. I've had a couple of really interesting fallouts where it was really painful and very like personally attacking. And I was like, I was taken aback because I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Um,
Like, where'd that
but
come from?
where'd that come from? But the interesting thing I learned, and this also speaks to how I communicate, is that we're accused of things. If they're not true, we don't need to defend ourselves. Like, there's no need to be like, but. if someone isn't in your same realm of reality or seeing the truth the same way that you are, there's no bridge that's going to get there that's going to be achieved by you demeaning yourself or excusing yourself or justifying or trying to sell why it's not what it seems.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not the same. And so what I learned in one of my relationships in particular, a friendship, was that I was being misunderstood. We were in a different place in reality, and I had to just walk away without being like, but I'm not what you say. There's no point in me saying that. So what happened was the friendship kind of died, and it hurt a lot. And yet a few years later, I had this woman reach back out to me and say, hey, like, I'd like to close this because it still feels like there's stuff there. And so we talked, and she was like, I'm really sorry. Like, can you tell me what was happening for you? I told her, and it was like, yes, it absolutely wasn't what it seemed for you. Like, you and I were on such a different page, and she really could see it. And it healed so much. And I think that was only possible because I didn't waste all this energy or time trying to be like clamoring for a connection that wasn't going to be real. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like, we're not going to meet, and that's okay. You know, like, this hurts, and I have to trust it. And that opened me up. You know, like, anytime these relationships end, whether it's copacetic or not copacetic, what ends up happening is a huge infusion of personal power because we've claimed our space. We've said, like, I matter enough not to diminish myself or not to compromise in ways that don't resonate or aren't in integrity with me. This means you get more of your power back, and that has huge implications, right? Like, your other relationships can fly, your business can fly, all these things can get more attention and focus because you're not leaking your energy into relationships that don't serve. So, you know, it's powerful and hard, and also, like, ultimately so beautiful, because then we're just more and more ourselves, and that's all anybody wants for us, right? You know, it's like, that's what we want for each other.
Yeah, so earlier you talked about that we do want to surround ourselves with powerful people, but then now we're talking about that it can be challenging. So how do we navigate through that? Because yeah, it's like we definitely want to surround ourselves with like-minded people who are helping us achieve, you know, what we're here to achieve, rather than stifle us or keep us kind of just hanging
Status
out.
quo.
Yeah, status quo. Yeah, so how do we balance that?
So my mentor gave me this great piece of advice around relationships, and she said, what you need is a zero-sum relationship. You need to be evenly balanced with whoever you're even mentors with, clients. It needs to feel like it's not costing you anything to be part of it. That doesn't mean you don't invest. You put your energy into it, but if you're not receiving equal energy back, then it's not going to work. And so what this ends up looking like is, you know, when we have those friends who we love to text with, but the minute that we're not immediately available, it becomes drama. Or we have a mentor who says they're all about our success, but when we actually have success, they start to get threatened. These are where it gets a little bit dicey in the power play. Whereas if the relationship is evenly balanced, nothing but love, right? So say a text doesn't get answered right away. It's like, great, I hope you're busy having fun, you know, like, not, well, where were you? You know, so it's in this way that we can still both be powerful or all be powerful in a group setting, and really just have the space for everybody to be themselves, to ask for what they need, to have a chance for it to be met, to meet others for what they're asking for. I mean, really, it's also communication, right? Like, how can you know what you need or have a chance of getting it unless you ask? So we need to be able to ask our friends, like, hey, it really means a lot to me when this happens. It doesn't mean they have to do it, but it gives you the information if they don't.
Yeah, and this happens a lot in romantic relationships too. It's like, really, it's so important to be able to communicate what your needs and wants are. And I think that, boy, that brings up so much stuff. I think so many people have a struggle communicating that to their partner, because whether they don't want to make the other person upset or make waves or ask for too much, or
as healers, we have to stop rescuing each other, you know. And so in our relationships, even if we're not a healer, we all have that essence inside of us. And if we try to save our partner from their feelings, by not making them uncomfortable or by toning down our needs or diminishing ourselves in some way to like help them be more comfortable, what we are saying to them without realizing it is, you're not strong, you're
Mm,
weak, you can't handle it. And so
interesting.
it creates a really strange dynamic, especially if the woman is the one diminishing. Her message then is to the man, you're weak. So what does that do to the polarity of the relationship, right? The man's getting this unconscious message, I'm not strong, I can't handle it. So he's not feeling confident to show up as masculine presence in the relationship. Then the woman is like, where's my man? Right. And
Hmm.
then she starts being the man because she's like, well, I'll just do it myself then. I don't have to ask for it. I'll
Yeah.
just do it myself. That's way more comfortable. And then nobody's needs are met and we become siblings. So, I see this a lot. I actually work with couples and have learned a lot from my own experiences. And it's fascinating to see what happens when we stop rescuing each other in
Hmm.
relationships, with our coaching clients, with our healing clients. What happens when we say, you are strong? Here's what may be an uncomfortable truth. What do we do with that? Here's an opportunity to think and act differently. Are you willing? Right? The message from spirit.
Hmm. I love that because we really are all to be standing in our power.
Yes.
And that's the person you want to be in relationship with. You want to bring your best self to a relationship and you want your partner to bring their best self. And yeah, I mean, again, it's simple but not easy.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Actually, living it is, it requires a lot of bravery, even in the simplest ways. But that's, I think, where courage really lives. It doesn't come when we're like jumping off a bridge with a bungee cord. It's like when it's time to say, hi, husband, I'm not sure we should be married anymore. Like,
Hmm.
that's courage.
Yeah.
Or it's courage to say, I've agreed to eat certain foods that I know my body likes, and you're giving me a donut. And it's pretty just to say no, right? Like
Hmm.
to honor what our body needs. Courage comes in many forms, and we're always like pedestalizing it for these like big acts. But it's like, the everyday courage is what really gets us through.
Hmm. So true. So let's talk about how to prevent burnout.
Mm.
Because if we're on fire and we're really embracing this passion we have inside and for me the tendency in the past has been to kind of take on that masculine energy, the drive and the go go go. So how do we prevent ourselves from burning out?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think one that we're all still learning how to do well.
Yeah.
But like everything, there are cycles, and we are best served when we honor the cycles. So seasons come, seasons go. There are high times, low times. And I think what happens is when we try to pull the high time into a natural low time, and that's when we really start to get burned out. So when we notice that we're starting to get more fatigued, that we're needing more rest, that we're starting to get maybe more procrastinating with our work or resistant or grouchy, this is a sign that the high time is starting to cycle into a natural low time.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean it's a time of depression or a time of no activity. It just means that our energies are cycling through. And we need to really honor that. And in order to not continue a trend of like more resistance, more fatigue, more, resentment, all of that stuff. So what I do is when I notice myself going into those patterns, I try to catch it as upstream as possible, meaning as early as possible,
Hmm.
and really devote myself then to rest, restoration. It's time to like eat really good, hearty, grounding foods. Maybe it might be time for a cleanse. It all depends on what your body is really asking for, what it needs to nourish itself. But often it's just simplifying things, resting. And it's in these low cycles that we really need to also practice our trust muscles. That if we take a little downturn from our engagement in anything, business, life, relationship, finances, whatever, that we are still going to be provided for, that everything will still flow to us, that we don't have to like make it happen
Hmm.
all the time. And in fact, if we try to make it happen all the time, we're going to end up not being able to make anything happen because we're not going to be here. You know, like
Yeah.
our health will suffer. We're just not going to be able to be present.
Hmm.
So that's my advice, is just to like catch it as early as possible and then ask, like, what do I need? You know, what do I need right now?
Yeah, and I love how you point out the ebb and flow, and that, even in nature, you with the cycle, the seasons, we do have the low times, we have the high times, and the growth cycle. Um, so what about play? How do we? Because I know that that's a big thing for you. It's like embodying the ecstasy that we're supposed to be having, like, so a lot of fun, and that the world is our playground. So
Yes.
help us, like, tap into that.
Yeah, well, the thing that I always get when I connect to spirit, and that many people get when they connect to spirit, is this idea that, like, you guys lighten up. It's not all so serious and heavy all the time. Like, you have these bodies, oh my gosh, feel with them,
Hmm.
like touch them, love them, have sex, please eat, like just use these bodies as the vehicles that they are while you're here. Because once it's gone, there ain't nothing there for you. Like,
Yeah.
it's all great to be out there and disembodied in spirit, but like we can't feel anything. You guys can. That's a huge gift. So go with it.
Hmm.
So play is not just about like childlike wonder, although that's a huge part of it. It's also about sensuality. It's about sexuality. The child and our inner beast are actually really connected, and our culture has no way of dealing with these two concepts actually being related. It's like so misunderstood and so made wrong, but our inner child needs like sexual play, sensual connection, needs that like human connection to the self, to others, to pleasure, in order to really thrive and feel good. I mean,
Hmm.
children as they are very sexual beings. So they're very like exploratory, and they like throw their bodies everywhere. And, I actually have this exercise when I'm working with groups to pretend that you're four right now. What does your body want to do? Because you look at a 4-year old, they're like laying on the floor, they're like looking under things, they're like touching a wall, like God knows what they're doing, right? And they're just kind of following these bodily cues, right? So play is following bodily cues, and it's also making a game out of life. So this ends up actually feeding our intuition as well. So there's a huge side benefit to it. One of my favorite intuition games is to drive down the freeway and to guess how drivers are going to behave. So, like, oh, that person's going to take a turn there. Oh, they're going to take that exit. And I hone my intuition and my instincts at that, making it a game, not a game that I can win or lose. It's just fun, you
Yeah.
know?
Interesting.
Um, so there's so many ways to turn our everyday life into some sort of a game. I mean, this is why video games are super popular, why people love like earning badges and things, and why Pokemon took off. Like, we want to engage with life. And we don't know how to do it if we don't have like a little structure for it. So that's something that I would suggest for people who are like, I don't know how to play. I've forgotten completely. Is
Yeah.
like make a little like game for yourself, like anything from a bingo game where you're like, anytime I see a purple car, checking that box off. Um, Anything like that, to where you can start to really notice different elements of your everyday life, start to weave them into having different meanings, becoming more meaningful, magical, playful. Anything can have that element to it. It's up to us to participate with it in that way.
Hmm.
And really, once you said, I want to be more playful, there's going to be things that start to show up that will help you do it. And then you just have to get out of your box and do that.
Yeah. I always loved the star chart. As a
Yes,
kid,
yes, yes.
I was like, I think I need to make myself another star chart and put my little gold stars on there.
Exactly, exactly. Like, we need to reward ourselves for just being human and showing up. I mean, that's something we don't often talk about, is just how much work it is just to exist here. Like, being a human in these times is very complicated and very intense. There's so much intensity to our world, and that can become fuel for pleasure, for ecstasy, or it can become fuel for overwhelm and stress. And it's really our choice.
Yeah, good point. It's our choice and what we want to focus on.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
what you focus on is what you see.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's a little exercise, couple minute exercise that you would like to walk us through.
Sure, sure. Well, I think a really good one is just going back to the animals, right? And I think everybody can pretty much picture an animal that they are afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I would like to do is just to guide you through a little like visualization so everybody can kind of settle into where they are. If you're not driving a car,
Yeah.
you can close your eyes, and if you are, you can do this later. But just quiet yourself, settle into your eyes, and I want you to conjure as clearly as possible one of the animals that scares you. And I'll just give you a few moments to really get a good solid picture in your mind. Okay, so once you have this animal conjured up, I would like you to imagine standing in front of it. And whatever size this animal is, I want you to begin to shrink it down. So I want you to shrink it down. If it's already small, it may already be the right size, but just bring this animal into a size where you could invite it into the palm of your hand. And this might feel a little bit scary, but that's okay. You're safe. It's just a visualization. So once you get this animal shrunk down, I'd like you to just invite it to crawl or swim or whatever. It's imagination. Anything's possible. Right there into the palm of your hand. And I want you to look at it from all sides and really get to know this animal. I want you to feel it on the palm of your hand, feel what it feels like. And then bring your attention into your own heartbeat and get a good sense for the rhythm of your heartbeat. And then I want your heartbeat to move through your body into the palm of your hand and begin to gently, rhythmically connect with the heartbeat of this animal. And what happens as your two heartbeats begin to merge is that all of the power of this animal's ferocity, the things about this animal that frighten you, the things that intimidate you about it, the stories you've heard about it. There's power in these things. And as your heartbeats merge, the power and not the fear is invited to travel the path of your heartbeat back into your center. So I want you to imagine the power of this animal traveling through your hand and up your arm and down along your shoulder and circling in through your chest, caressing the outer edges of your heart. And then this power begins to sink into your belly. And you can imagine this little glowing orange yellow ball in your belly. And as the power drips in from this animal, it begins to grow and glow and pulsate. And every heartbeat brings a little bit more power to the center. And depending on how afraid of this animal you are, give it some time to really bring all of that juice into your center. And see just how much it adds to your reserves of personal power. Now, you can look at this animal again. And you may find that your energy toward it is neutralized, so that you don't get that fluttering in your chest or that intake of breath. It's just simply another creature with a heartbeat just like yours, with a purpose just like yours, with a belongingness just like yours. This animal is your sister and your brother. This animal is your teacher and your guide. This animal has many secrets. And now that you are equals, you may be able to hear them. So next time you encounter this animal, either in an image or on TV or in a movie or in real life, imagine meeting it as an equal and asking it a question. All the wise ones like to be acknowledged, just like we like to be seen. And if you acknowledge this animal, your interactions with it in everyday life will change. So rest in that knowing that your relationship with all the things you fear is just like this. And that just by becoming more of an equal with that which you're afraid of, dialogue can happen, growth can happen, connection can happen. Now you can set this animal down into its environment, invite it to re-embody to its full nature and move along on its own path. Send it a blessing of gratitude and return back to us.
I see how we can use that in with different things and not just animals.
Yeah, absolutely. Animals are a low barrier to entry to spirituality because they're real, because we sense our likeness in them, because we admire them, because we have always yearned to understand them. So they are a doorway into all different types of exploration, and it's a really good place to start.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what do you have coming up for yourselves? What's in store for you?
Oh, so many amazing things. So I was telling you at the beginning before we started that we're just putting the final touches on our shamanic play retreat in Peru. And so we're taking a group of 8 down to investigate an outer jungle, down in the jungle in Peru, and then climb to the peak experience of life with Machu Picchu and really explore the Andean area as well. So that's super exciting. That's going to take up like of my month, which is amazing, and I'm so grateful. And then we have a couple more of those retreats happening in 2017. We have a couple of really amazing group experiences. So I'm creating an in-person medicine mentorship for medicine women who want to learn the art of connecting with spirit. There's like just a crazy amount of things that are happening in my business and in my life. You know, we're looking at buying land and creating retreat space and building a home for our family. Like all the things are happening right now, and it's really exciting. And also, I know it's just one of those times where, you know, we're at the higher energy cycle. So we're just going to ride that wave while it's here and then work with it when it starts to ebb and rest and restore and replenish. And, you know, we just kind of go with those cycles like we do, like we're designed to.
Yeah.
But it's been really amazing to see that as we evolve, you know, the severity of the dip and crash is much less, right? And yet you're evolving up.
Yes.
So it's like the highs keep getting higher, but the variability in your emotional experience starts to even out. So, you know, your downtimes are like, I see what's happening. I'm not bowled over by this. And so, like, there's really nothing but joy and anticipation about what's ahead for us, whether it's on the up or on the down. It's
Excellent.
pretty exciting all around.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I will definitely be watching your journey and see how things unfold for you.
Awesome.
So, and tell us about the gift that you have for Academy members.
Yes. So for our members, you guys get to download my guide to telling the wild truth. So I was talking about how communication really is such a tool for us. And if we're able to communicate effectively with our partners or in our life in general, wild things open for us, right? Like we actually learn how to ask for what we want and open the door for that to happen. And there's ways to do it that are effective and more effective than others. And this is not like nonviolent communication or even radical honesty, both of which I have issues with. It's a different type of approach to telling the truth that feels a lot more from the heart and also gives you a chance to really explore timing, talking to people. And, it's not a formulaic approach. So you really can take the learning that's in the guide and create a very, very powerful way for yourself to communicate that's totally in alignment with who you are. So it's my pleasure to share these tools. I think the more of us that are able to communicate and the more of us that are able to connect, which means our world is a better place. So
Right.
it's really important to me that this gets out, and it's my pleasure to share it.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely need more truth tellers out there.
Yes. Yes. And not just truth screamers, right? Or truth yellers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. With grace and ease.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Lola, this was an incredible conversation, and it was so much fun to go on this journey with you today. And so thank you for sharing your wisdom. And yeah, I mean, there are no more words. We'll just say that.
Thank you so much for having me. It's meant a lot to me to be here, and it's a pleasure to have meaningful conversations.
Yeah, it is. I think they're so important. And to all those that are watching and listening, I thank you for being on this path and joining us and doing your part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.